A faint drizzle fell over downtown Seattle's bustling streets that grey November morning, the kind of rain that locals barely noticed anymore. Emily Richardson, lead trauma nurse at Harborview Medical Center, was already running late for her shift when traffic ground to a complete halt on Madison Street. But what happened next would change not just her life, but the entire city's understanding of compassion. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The rain intensified as Emily drummed her fingers against her steering wheel, watching the traffic lights cycle from red to green and back again without a single car moving forward. At 32, she'd grown accustomed to Seattle's notorious traffic, but something felt different about this gridlock. The usual symphony of impatient horns had given way to an eerie silence, broken only by the gentle patter of rain against her windshield. Through the misty haze, she could make out a shape in the middle of the intersection, a dog standing absolutely still, its matted fur dark with rain. Emily had seen plenty of strays during her decade in the city, but this one's posture caught her attention. The dog wasn't wandering or confused. It stood with purpose, deliberately blocking the flow of traffic from all directions, pulling her. Rain jacket closer, Emily stepped out of her car, ignoring the wet chill that immediately seeped through her scrubs. As she approached, she noticed other drivers doing the same, drawn by the peculiar scene unfolding before them. The dog, a medium-sized mutt with intelligent eyes and a graying muzzle, watched their approach without moving from its post. "Hey there, buddy," Emily called softly, drawing on years of experience calming anxious patience. The dog's ears perked up, but it remained rooted to the spot, its eyes fixed on something beyond the gathering crowd. That's when Emily noticed the subtle details that her medical training had taught her to recognize. The dog's rapid breathing, the tension in its muscles, the way it kept glancing between the humans and whatever had captured its attention. The morning commuters, initially frustrated by the delay, now formed a protective circle around the dog. Among them was Marcus Chen, a software engineer who'd recently moved to Seattle from Silicon Valley. He'd been on his way to a crucial meeting at Amazon's headquarters, but something about the dog's determination made his deadline seem suddenly less important. "Look at how it's standing," Marcus observed, his voice barely audible above the steady drumbeat of rain. "It's like it's guarding something." The dog's eyes met his, and in that moment Marcus recognized something he'd seen countless times in his colleagues during critical code deployments. Absolute focus, unwavering dedication to a vital task. Emily took another careful step forward, her shoes splashing in the growing puddles. The dog watched her approach, its tail giving a single, gentle wag. Not of greeting, but of recognition, as if it had been waiting for someone who would understand. That's when she heard it, a sound so faint it was almost lost in the urban symphony of rain and distant traffic. A whimper, but not from the dog. The sound came from beneath the street itself, emanating from a storm drain partially hidden by the dog's protective stance. Emily's heart rate quickened as her professional instincts kicked in. She moved closer, and the dog finally shifted slightly, allowing her to peer into the darkness below. What she saw made her blood run cold. A small hand, barely visible in the drain's shadows, reached upward through the grate. The dog hadn't been blocking traffic, it had been marking the location of a trapped child. Emily's training took over as she grabbed her phone, her fingers flying over the emergency contacts she knew by heart. The next few minutes, exploded into controlled chaos. Police cruisers and fire trucks converged on the intersection, their lights painting the rain-slicked streets in alternating patterns of red and blue. The dog maintained its vigil, moving only when emergency responders needed access to the drain, then returning to its self-appointed post. As rescue workers carefully removed the drain cover, the full story began to emerge. 6-year-old Sophie Martinez had been walking to school with her older brother when she dropped her favorite stuffed animal, a well-loved rabbit named Mr. Hops. In trying to retrieve it, she'd slipped through the grate, becoming trapped in the narrow space between street level and the water below. Her brother, panicked and unsure what to do, had run home to get help. But in the confusion of morning routines and language barriers, the Martinez family had recently immigrated from Venezuela. Crucial time had been lost in translation. It was the dog, whose origins remained a mystery, that had somehow found Sophie and understood the gravity of her situation. Fire Chief Sarah Anderson coordinated the delicate extraction, her voice steady as she directed her team. "Easy now," she called, watching as her crew worked to stabilize the surrounding ground. "We don't want any shifting." The rain had made the earth treacherous, and one wrong move could spell disaster. Emily found herself working alongside the rescue team, her medical training proving invaluable as they assessed Sophie's condition. The little girl was cold and frightened, but amazingly unharmed. Throughout the entire rescue, the dog remained close by, its eyes never leaving Sophie's face. As they finally lifted Sophie to safety, wrapped in warm blankets and reunited with her frantic parents, the gathered crowd burst into applause. The dog's tail wagged properly for the first time that morning, and Emily noticed something else, a thin leather collar nearly hidden beneath its matted fur. While paramedics checked Sophie over in the back of an ambulance, Emily carefully approached the dog again. This time, it allowed her to get close enough to read the worn tag. Guardian Therapy Dog Training Program. Further inspection revealed a tiny QR code, nearly worn away by time and weather. Marcus, who had remained on scene despite his meeting, pulled out his phone. The QR code led them to a website for a defunct therapy dog training center that had closed 2 years ago during the economic downturn. Guardian had been in their final training class, specializing in crisis response and children's trauma support. When the center closed, several dogs had been adopted, but Guardian had somehow slipped through the cracks. Yet here he was, 2 years later, still fulfilling his training, protecting and helping those in need. The story exploded across social media, capturing hearts worldwide. Local news crews arrived just as the morning's drama was winding down, their cameras catching the moment Sophie reached out from her blanket cocoon to pull Guardian close, whispering "Gracias" into his damp fur. Emily watched the scene unfold, her mind already racing with possibilities. In her years at Harborview, she'd seen countless cases where therapy dogs made breakthrough connections with traumatized patients. Guardian's actions today hadn't just saved Sophie. They'd highlighted a crucial gap in the city's emergency response system. The rain began to ease as the morning's events transitioned from crisis to celebration. Traffic slowly resumed its normal flow, but the intersection at Madison Street would never be quite the same. Seattle's residents had witnessed something extraordinary, a reminder that sometimes the most profound acts of heroism come from the most unexpected sources. Guardian's story was far from over. The dog that had once slipped through society's cracks was about to become the catalyst for a revolution in emergency response and community care. But for now, as Emily finally headed in for her shift at Harborview, several hours late but with her heart full, Guardian sat contentedly in the back of her car, his mission accomplished, ready for whatever came next. The rain had washed away the last traces of his years on the street, revealing the noble spirit that had never wavered, even when the world had forgotten him. In the coming days, as Seattle embraced its unlikely hero, Guardian would prove that second chances aren't just for humans, and that sometimes it takes a moment of crisis to reveal the extraordinary potential within the ordinary. Through the hospital's windows, Emily watched the sun finally break through the clouds, casting golden light across the rain-washed city. She smiled, knowing that while her day hadn't gone as planned, it had gone exactly as it needed to. Sometimes, the best moments in life come not from following our schedules, but from stopping to listen when the universe sends us a sign, even if that sign comes in the form of a dog blocking traffic on a rainy Seattle morning. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. As news of Guardian's heroic act spread through Seattle's rain-soaked streets, the city's response transformed from mere admiration into something far more powerful. Emily Richardson's phone hadn't stopped buzzing since she'd arrived at Harborview Medical Center, but it wasn't just reporters seeking comments about the morning's rescue. Medical professionals across the Pacific Northwest were reaching out, sharing their own stories of animal-assisted breakthroughs in patient care. During her lunch break, Emily sat in the hospital's courtyard, Guardian resting quietly at her feet. The morning's downpour had given way to Seattle's signature misty drizzle, creating a peaceful backdrop for the constant stream of hospital staff who stopped by to meet the city's newest hero. Each visitor brought their own story, tales of patients who'd spoken their first words after trauma to therapy dogs, of children who'd found courage for difficult procedures through furry companionship, of elderly patients whose vital signs improved dramatically after animal visits. Dr. James Morrison, Harborview's chief of emergency medicine, approached with purpose in his stride. "Richardson," he called, his usual formality softened by the sight of Guardian's gentle eyes. "I've been reviewing your proposal." Emily sat up straighter, her heart racing. In the few hours since the rescue, she'd hastily drafted a plan for integrating crisis response animals into the hospital's emergency protocols. "Sir, I know it's unprecedented," Emily began, but Morrison held up a hand. "What's unprecedented is having the entire board of directors calling me on the same morning, all saying the same thing." He smiled, a rare occurrence that transformed his stern features. They watched the news, they saw what Guardian did, and more importantly, they saw the potential. The potential was exactly what had kept Emily awake during her brief breaks between patients. Guardian hadn't just saved one child, he'd demonstrated an entirely new approach to emergency response. His actions had shown how trained animals could serve as first alerts, maintaining crisis situations until human help arrived. As if understanding he was the topic of discussion, Guardian lifted his head, his eyes moving between Emily and Morrison, with intelligent interest. The dog's composure, even after his morning heroics, spoke to his professional training. Despite 2 years on the streets, his instincts and abilities hadn't diminished. "We're not just talking about a therapy dog program," Morrison continued, pulling up a chair. We're talking about revolutionizing how we approach urban emergency response. Guardian showed us that animals can be more than comfort providers. They can be active participants in saving lives. Emily's mind raced with possibilities. She thought of Sophie, now resting comfortably in the pediatric ward, who hadn't let Guardian leave her side until she'd fallen asleep. The dog had known exactly how to position himself, close enough to provide comfort, but careful not to disturb any medical equipment. It was the kind of intuition that couldn't be programmed into machines or taught in medical school. The board has approved an initial pilot program, Morrison announced, his voice carrying the weight of possibility. We want to establish the first comprehensive animal-assisted emergency response unit in the country. Training, certification, deployment protocols, everything. And they want you to lead it. The opportunity was staggering. Emily had always known that animals could play a crucial role in healing, but this was a chance to prove it on a scale she'd never imagined. Guardian's actions had opened a door, and behind it lay the potential to transform emergency medicine. As the afternoon wore on, the hospital's atmosphere buzzed with energy. News crews set up outside, their satellite trucks creating a media village in the parking lot. But the real story was unfolding inside, where Guardian's presence was already making an impact. In the pediatric ward, children who had been withdrawn for weeks emerged from their shells to greet the gentle hero. A teenage trauma patient, who hadn't spoken since a car accident 3 days ago, whispered her first words to Guardian. "You're just like my dog at home." Parents who had been struggling to connect with their injured children found common ground in Guardian's story, but it was in the emergency department where Guardian's true potential became clear. During a sudden influx of patients from a minor bus accident, the dog instinctively positioned himself near those in most distress, his presence helping to calm panic and allow medical staff to work more effectively. He seemed to know exactly who needed him most, moving between patients with purposeful gentleness. Emily watched in amazement as Guardian approached a young man in the waiting room who appeared perfectly calm. Within minutes, the man began showing signs of a panic attack that none of the human staff had detected. Guardian's early warning gave them precious extra seconds to intervene. As evening approached, Emily found herself in a meeting room with an unlikely group. Dr. Morrison, Fire Chief Anderson, Police Captain Rodriguez, and representatives from local animal welfare organizations. Guardian lay quietly under the conference table, occasionally touching his nose to someone's shoe when their stress levels rose during heated discussions. "We're not just talking about one hospital," Chief Anderson explained, spreading out maps of Seattle. Guardian showed us that these animals can serve as a bridge between emergency services. Imagine trained dogs who can not only recognize emergencies but communicate effectively with multiple response teams. Captain Rodriguez nodded, adding, "Our K9 units are incredible, but they're specialized. What Guardian did today was something different. He showed us that animals can be generalists in crisis response, adapting to whatever situation they find." The animal welfare representatives shared stories of other former therapy dogs living on the streets, victims of program closures and funding cuts. "There's a whole network of trained animals out there," explained Maria Gonzalez from Seattle. "Animal shelter. They never lost their skills, they just lost their opportunities to use them." As the meeting progressed, the vision expanded. What had started as a hospital program was evolving into something larger, a citywide initiative to integrate animal assistance into every level of emergency response. Guardian had proven that the right dog at the right moment could be more effective than a dozen human responders. The logistics were daunting. Training programs would need to be developed, protocols established, legal frameworks created. But as Emily looked around the room, she saw something remarkable. Hardened emergency response veterans and hospital administrators alike were being transformed by the simple presence of one dog who'd never forgotten his purpose. By night's end, the framework for the Guardian Initiative was taking shape. Named after its inspiration, the program would identify, retrain, and deploy former therapy and service dogs throughout Seattle's emergency response network. But more than that, it would create a new model for urban emergency services, one that recognized the unique capabilities of animals to bridge the gaps between human systems. Emily's final task of the day was checking on Sophie. The little girl was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. Guardian rose from his spot under the conference table and padded quietly to her room, taking up position outside her door without being asked. Even after everything, he remembered his first rescue of the day. Looking at Guardian's watchful form, Emily understood that they'd witnessed more than just a dramatic rescue. They'd seen a glimpse of what was possible when human ingenuity partnered with animal instinct. The dog who'd stopped traffic hadn't just saved one life, he'd started a movement that would save countless more. As Seattle's lights twinkled through the hospital windows, Emily sent one final email, a request to have Guardian's old training records transferred to Harborview. Tomorrow, they would begin the work of building something unprecedented. But tonight, in the quiet hospital corridors, a former therapy dog continued his mission, watching over those in need, asking nothing in return except the chance to fulfill his purpose. The rain had stopped, and stars peeked through breaks in the clouds. Seattle had changed today, not just because of a dramatic rescue, but because one dog's unwavering dedication had reminded an entire city what it meant to serve others, without hesitation, without reward, and without losing hope, even when the world seemed to have forgotten you. The sun rose over Seattle the next morning, casting long shadows through the city's iconic skyscrapers as Emily arrived early at Harborview Medical Center. Guardian's story had exploded overnight, transforming from local news to a national phenomenon. As she walked through the hospital's main entrance, a wall-mounted television caught her attention. Guardian's rain-soaked image filled the screen as a national morning show anchor spoke passionately about the hero hound of Seattle. But Emily's focus wasn't on the media frenzy. In her hands, she clutched a thick manila envelope that had arrived by courier just minutes before. Inside were Guardian's complete training records from the defunct therapy dog program. And what they revealed was extraordinary. Pages of detailed assessments showed that Guardian hadn't just been any therapy dog in training. He had consistently scored in the top percentile for crisis recognition, emotional intelligence, and adaptive response. Dr. Sarah Chang, the hospital's leading behavioral psychologist, met Emily in the conference room. As they spread the documents across the table, Guardian sat attentively nearby, his eyes following their movements with remarkable intelligence. "Look at these scores," Dr. Chang marveled, pointing to a series of evaluation metrics. His ability to read micro-expressions and body language is off the charts. He wasn't just trained, he was exceptional. The records revealed something else Guardian had been part of an experimental program developing what they called crisis anticipation training. The idea was revolutionary, teaching dogs to recognize the subtle signs of impending medical or emotional crises before they became apparent to human observers. The program had been shut down due to funding cuts just weeks before Guardian certification was complete. As they delved deeper into the records, a nurse burst into the conference room. "You need to see this," she said breathlessly. In the emergency department, a scene was unfolding that would add another chapter to Guardian's growing legend. A young man had been brought in following a motorcycle accident. His vital signs were stable, but Guardian, who had followed Emily to the ER, suddenly became intensely focused on the patient. The dog's behavior was different from his usual calm demeanor. He began pawing gently but persistently at the man's left leg, which showed no visible signs of injury. Dr. James Morrison, who had been observing Guardian's interactions with patients, made a decision that would later be credited with saving the man's life. Based solely on Guardian's reaction, he ordered immediate deep tissue scans of the leg. The images revealed a potentially fatal blood clot that had formed after the accident, one that might have gone undetected until it was too late. "He didn't just find it, he found it early," Morrison explained to the gathering of medical staff. "That's the difference between treatment and prevention." The incident became the first official case study of the Guardian Initiative, demonstrating how trained animals could detect medical emergencies before they became critical. Throughout the day, more stories of Guardian's past began to emerge. A former trainer from the therapy dog program had seen the news and driven 3 hours to share her experiences. Linda Martinez sat with Emily in the hospital cafe, her eyes welling with tears as she reunited with her former student. "Guardian was special from the beginning," Linda explained, watching as the dog gently greeted anxious patients in the waiting area. "We had this theory that some dogs don't just learn. They're training. They understand the deeper purpose behind it. Guardian never saw his abilities as tricks to be performed. He saw them as responsibilities to be fulfilled." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the pediatric oncology ward. Sophie, the little girl Guardian had saved from the storm drain, was experiencing severe anxiety before an important procedure. Traditional calming methods weren't working, and the medical team was considering postponing the treatment. Guardian led the way to Sophie's room, navigating the hospital corridors with purposeful strides. What happened next would become another turning point in the initiative's development. Instead of simply providing comfort, Guardian demonstrated a level of medical awareness that astonished the staff. The dog positioned himself on Sophie's left side, away from the IV lines and medical equipment. When nurses needed access to her right arm for the procedure, Guardian shifted his position without being prompted, maintaining contact with Sophie while never impeding the medical team's work. More remarkably, he seemed to anticipate each step of the procedure, adjusting his supportive presence to match Sophie's changing anxiety levels. "He's not just reacting, he's anticipating," Dr. Chang observed, taking detailed notes. "This is adaptive response at its finest. He's literally creating a bridge between the medical procedure and the patient's emotional state." The success of Sophie's procedure sparked a new avenue of research for the Guardian Initiative. Emily and Dr. Chang began documenting how Guardian's presence affected various medical metrics, blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol levels, and patient cooperation. The data was compelling. Patients supported by Guardian showed significantly better outcomes across all measures. But it was in the emergency department where Guardian's impact truly began to reshape medical protocols. During a busy afternoon shift, an elderly man was brought in with symptoms of a stroke. While the medical team focused on the obvious emergency, Guardian became intensely interested in another patient, a young woman in the waiting room who appeared to be perfectly fine. Trusting Guardian's instincts, Emily asked the woman if she could check her vital signs. Within minutes, they discovered she was experiencing the early stages of an allergic reaction she hadn't yet noticed herself. Guardian had detected it before any visible symptoms appeared, allowing for preventive treatment rather than emergency intervention. As word of these successes spread, hospitals across the country began reaching out to learn more about the Guardian initiative. Emily found herself hosting video conferences with medical teams from New York to Los Angeles, all eager to understand how they could implement similar programs. The initiative was expanding beyond its original scope. What had started as a hospital-based program was evolving into a comprehensive approach to public health and safety. Guardian's actions were proving that trained animals could serve as an early warning system for a wide range of medical and emotional crises. Late that evening, as Emily reviewed the day's cases with Dr. Morrison, Guardian suddenly raised his head and trotted purposefully toward the hospital's main entrance. Moments later, ambulance sirens became audible in the distance. Somehow, he had heard or sensed their approach before anyone else. The ambulance brought in victims of a multi-car accident, and Guardian's assistance proved invaluable. He moved between patients with uncanny accuracy, consistently identifying those with the most urgent yet not always obvious needs. His behavior helped the trauma team prioritize their responses more effectively than standard triage protocols alone. "He's not replacing human judgment," Emily explained to a documentary crew that had been following Guardian's story. "He's enhancing it. The Guardian shows us what we might miss, gives us information we can't access through traditional methods. He's teaching us to be better healers by showing us what we've been overlooking." As the day drew to a close, Emily sat in her office, Guardian resting at her feet, and began drafting the official protocols for the Guardian initiative. The program would focus not just on training new dogs, but on identifying and recovering former therapy animals who, like Guardian, had been displaced by program closures and funding cuts. "Every dog has the potential to save lives," she wrote, "but some, like Guardian, remind us that the greatest medical breakthroughs might not come from technology or pharmaceuticals, but from rediscovering the healing power of the human-animal bond." Outside her window, Seattle's lights twinkled under a clearing sky. The city that had woken up to a traffic-stopping dog had gone to bed with a revolutionary new vision for emergency medicine. Guardian's legacy would extend far beyond one rainy morning rescue. It would reshape how the medical community thought about healing, crisis response, and the extraordinary potential that could be found in giving second chances. Guardian lifted his head, his eyes meeting Emily's with that same unwavering focus that had first caught her attention in the middle of a rainy intersection. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new patients, new opportunities to prove that sometimes the most powerful medical tools didn't come with batteries or user manuals. They came with 4 legs, a warm heart, and an unshakable dedication to helping others. The Guardian Initiative's impact rippled far beyond Harborview's walls as dawn broke over Seattle 1 week after the fateful traffic incident. Emily arrived at the hospital to find an unexpected visitor waiting in the lobby. Dr. Rebecca Chen, Director of Innovation at the Mayo Clinic, had flown in specifically to witness Guardian's capabilities firsthand. Her presence signaled a seismic shift in how the medical establishment viewed animal-assisted crisis response. "Show me everything," Dr. Chen said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity as Guardian padded over to greet her. The dog's demeanor shifted, subtly as he approached, and Emily watched in amazement as he gently placed his paw on Dr. Chen's hand. The renowned physician's eyes widened. How did he know? Know what? Emily asked, intrigued. "I've been having tremors in my right hand," Dr. Chen admitted, rolling up her sleeve to reveal a medical alert bracelet. "Early Parkinson's. I haven't told anyone outside my immediate family, but he detected it immediately." The moment catalyzed a day of revelations that would transform the initiative from a local program into a national movement. As they toured the hospital, Guardian demonstrated abilities that even Emily hadn't fully grasped. In the cardiac unit, he alerted to a patient's irregular heartbeat before the monitors detected any change. In pediatrics, he identified a child's emerging fever before traditional symptoms appeared. But it was in the trauma center where Guardian's extraordinary capabilities truly shone. A construction worker was brought in following a scaffolding collapse, his visible injuries seeming relatively minor. Guardian's reaction, however, was anything but routine. The dog became intensely focused on the worker's torso, exhibiting a specific pattern of behavior that Emily had begun documenting. "Full body scan," Emily called out, translating Guardian signals. "He's showing his internal injury response." The subsequent scans revealed a slowly developing internal bleed that could have been fatal if left undetected. Time after time, Guardian proved that his abilities went far beyond simple comfort or basic medical alert. Dr. Chen took rapid notes, her hand steadied by Guardian's occasional gentle touches. "This isn't just about crisis response," she realized. "This is preventive medicine on an entirely new level. He's not just finding problems, he's anticipating them." Throughout the day, they witnessed Guardian's intervention in increasingly complex medical situations. During a stroke patient's evaluation, he indicated the precise location of the clot before imaging confirmed it. In the psychiatric ward, he anticipated anxiety attacks minutes before they manifested, allowing staff to intervene preventively. The breakthrough moment came during a routine checkup of a seemingly healthy patient. Guardian's persistent attention to the patient's neck led to the discovery of an early-stage thyroid tumor, one that conventional screening wouldn't have caught for months. "We need to understand the science behind this," Dr. Chen declared, gathering the hospital's research team. "What indicators is he detecting? How can we quantify and replicate these assessments?" The question sparked an unprecedented collaboration between medical researchers and animal behaviorists. Linda Martinez, Guardian's former trainer, joined forces with Dr. Chang to develop a comprehensive study of animal-based diagnostic indicators. They began mapping Guardian's responses against traditional medical diagnostics, creating a new framework for understanding how animals perceive human health conditions. The research revealed stunning correlations. Guardian's behavior patterns showed consistent relationships with specific medical conditions, suggesting he was detecting subtle physiological changes imperceptible to human observers. His accuracy rate in preliminary studies exceeded 90%, better than many conventional screening methods. But Guardian's influence extended beyond medical diagnostics. In the emergency department's waiting room, he began exhibiting a new behavior, creating what the staff called comfort chains. He would move from one anxious patient to another, somehow connecting those who could support each other. A frightened child would find herself sitting next to a grandmother with a calming presence. A stressed-out businessman would end up chatting with a former meditation instructor. "He's not just treating individuals," Dr. Chang observed. "He's building micro-communities of healing. He understands that recovery isn't just physical, it's social and emotional too." The implications were revolutionary. Hospitals had always struggled with the human element of healthcare, the intangible factors that could make or break a patient's recovery. Guardian was demonstrating that animals could bridge this gap, creating connections that promoted healing on multiple levels. As news of the program's success spread, something remarkable began happening in cities across America. Animal shelters reported people coming forward with stories of former therapy dogs living as strays or in homes that didn't recognize their special abilities. A network began to form, connecting these displaced healers with medical facilities, eager to implement their own versions of the Guardian initiative. Emily found herself at the center of a movement that was redefining the relationship between animals and medicine. The Mayo Clinic, under Dr. Chen's direction, committed to establishing the first academic research center dedicated to animal-assisted medical diagnostics. Other major hospitals followed suit, creating a nationwide network of programs modeled on Guardian's groundbreaking work. But perhaps the most profound impact came in the form of individual transformations. Sophie, the little girl from the storm drain, had become an unofficial ambassador for the program. Her story of survival, combined with her ongoing journey through treatment with Guardian support, inspired other hospitals to rethink their approach to pediatric care. Late one evening, as Emily completed her rounds, she found Guardian in Sophie's room, engaged in what had become their nightly ritual. The dog lay quietly beside the girl's bed, his presence helping her transition from the anxiety of treatment to the peace of sleep. But this time, something was different. Sophie was reading aloud from a book about animal heroes, her voice growing stronger with each word. The once traumatized child had found her voice through her connection with Guardian, and now she was dreaming of becoming a veterinarian herself. "I want to help animals," she declared, "so they can help people like Guardian helped me." The moment crystallized everything the initiative had achieved. It wasn't just about medical breakthroughs or crisis response. It was about the profound healing that occurs when humans and animals work together with purpose and understanding. Dr. Chen, who had extended her visit to fully document Guardian's capabilities, sat with Emily in the hospital cafe, reviewing the week's data. "What we're seeing here goes beyond medicine," she reflected. "Guardian is showing us that healing is a collaborative process. We've been so focused on technology and protocols that we forgot about the power of connection." The implications of this understanding were already reshaping medical education. Harborview had begun incorporating animal behavior studies into its residency programs, teaching young doctors to work in partnership with therapy animals rather than seeing them as mere comfort providers. As the day drew to a close, Emily watched Guardian make his final rounds. In each room, with each patient, he demonstrated the perfect balance of professional focus and compassionate presence that had made him an icon of the emerging field of medical animal assistance. He never forgot his purpose, Emily thought, watching him gently nuzzle a worried patient's hand. Even when the world forgot him, he kept his skills sharp, his heart open, waiting for the moment when he'd be needed most. The Guardian Initiative had become more than a program. It was a revolution in healing, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful medical breakthroughs come not from laboratories or operating rooms, but from the simple, profound connection between species who share a common goal, helping others heal, grow, and thrive. As Seattle's lights twinkled in the gathering dusk, Guardian sat beside Emily's desk, his eyes fixed on the horizon as if he could see the future they were building together. A future where healing would know no bounds, where second chances would create first responders, and where the simple act of stopping traffic could start a movement that would transform medicine forever. 1 month after Guardian's pivotal traffic-stopping moment, Harborview Medical Center hosted an unprecedented gathering. Medical directors from 20 major hospitals across the country converged in Seattle, not for a traditional conference, but for what they called the Guardian Protocol Summit. The hospital's largest auditorium buzzed with anticipation as Emily prepared to present the initiative's groundbreaking results. Guardian sat calmly beside her on the stage, his presence transforming what could have been a routine medical presentation into something extraordinary. The data they were about to share would challenge everything the medical establishment thought they knew about crisis response and patient care. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a renowned neurologist from Johns Hopkins, opened the session with a stunning revelation. She projected a series of brain scans onto the massive screen, before and after images of patients who had worked with Guardian. The changes were remarkable. Areas associated with stress and anxiety showed significant reduction in activity, while regions linked to healing and recovery lit up with unprecedented intensity. What we're seeing isn't just a calming effect, Dr. Rodriguez explained, her voice filled with controlled excitement. These animals are actually facilitating neurological healing patterns we've never seen before. Guardian isn't just making patients feel better, he's helping their brains rewire themselves for recovery. The presentation moved beyond simple statistics. Video clips showed Guardian working with patients in increasingly complex scenarios. In one particularly powerful moment, he demonstrated an ability to detect the early signs of seizures in epilepsy, patients up to 15 minutes before any medical equipment could register changes. But it was the next revelation that left the audience of medical professionals in stunned silence. Emily unveiled the results of a 3-week study tracking Guardian's accuracy in detecting various medical conditions. His success rate wasn't just high, it was revolutionary. In cases of internal bleeding, he showed 97% accuracy. For early-stage infections, 94%. Even with complex neurological conditions, his detection rate exceeded 90%. Ladies and gentlemen, Emily addressed the captivated audience, what we're witnessing isn't just an improvement in patient care. This is a paradigm shift in how we approach medical diagnosis and treatment. The summit's impact extended far beyond the auditorium. Live streams reached medical facilities worldwide, and questions poured in from doctors and researchers on every continent. But the most powerful moment came when Sophie, now fully recovered, walked onto the stage with her mother. Before Guardian, Sophie spoke clearly into the microphone, her voice carrying the weight of lived experience. "I was scared of hospitals. Now I want to be a doctor. Because Guardian showed me that healing isn't just about medicine, it's about connection." The summit transformed into a collaborative workshop as medical professionals shared their own experiences with animal-assisted care. Dr. James Chen from Stanford presented cases where therapy dogs had detected cancers before conventional screening methods. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from Mayo Clinic described how animals had revolutionized their pediatric trauma unit. But Guardian wasn't finished surprising them. During a break in the presentations, he suddenly left Emily's side and made his way through the crowd to an elderly physician sitting quietly in the back row. The doctor, one of the most respected cardiologists in the country, had been skeptical of the entire program. Guardian gently placed his paw on the man's chest, exhibiting his now documented cardiac alert behavior. "I'm fine," the doctor insisted, but agreed to a checkup at his colleague's urging. The subsequent examination revealed a dangerous arterial blockage requiring immediate intervention. The doctor who had come to doubt had become living proof of the program's value. The summit's scope expanded beyond medical detection. Behavioral psychologists presented research showing how Guardian's comfort chains, his ability to connect patients who could support each other, had revolutionized the hospital's social dynamic. Recovery rates improved, not just for the patients he directly interacted with, but throughout entire wards. As the day progressed, the initiative unveiled its next phase, the Guardian Academy. This comprehensive training program would not only prepare new animals for medical detection work, but would also focus on identifying and rehabilitating former therapy dogs who, like Guardian, had been displaced by program closures. "Every community has its guardians," Emily explained. "Animals with extraordinary abilities who just need the chance to serve. Our job isn't to create these heroes, it's to find them and give them the opportunity to fulfill their purpose." The Academy's first success story padded onto the stage. A former therapy dog named Luna, who had been found living behind a suburban shopping center. After just 2 weeks of retraining, Luna had already helped detect 3 cases of early-stage diabetes and had prevented a potentially dangerous medication interaction. The summit's final session focused on the future. Plans were unveiled for a nationwide network of animal-assisted crisis response teams. Hospitals would share data, protocols, and resources, creating a comprehensive system for incorporating animals into mainstream medical care. But the most powerful moment came when the lights dimmed and a video began playing on the massive screen. It showed Guardian's journey, from his early training days through his time on the streets to the morning. He stopped traffic to save a life. The footage, compiled from security cameras and bystander videos, told a story of unwavering purpose. Guardian never lost his training, Emily narrated as the video played. He never forgot his mission, even without a program, without recognition, without reward. He kept helping people. He reminds us that true healing doesn't require fancy equipment or expensive facilities. Sometimes it just requires an open heart and the courage to stop traffic when someone needs help. The summit concluded with a groundbreaking announcement. The National Institutes of Health had approved a major grant to study the physiological mechanisms behind animals' diagnostic abilities. What had started with one dog stopping traffic had evolved into a scientific revolution. As the medical directors filed out of the auditorium, many wiping tears from their eyes, Guardian made his rounds, greeting each person with the perfect balance of professional dignity and compassionate connection that had become his trademark. He seemed to understand the magnitude of what had been accomplished, not just for himself, but for all the displaced therapy animals who would now have a chance to serve again. That evening, as Seattle's skyline glowed in the sunset, Emily found Guardian in his favorite spot by the hospital's large windows. He was watching ambulances arrive, still alert, still ready to help despite the long day. A group of young medical students had gathered nearby, watching him with admiration. The greatest healers, Emily told them, are the ones who never stop learning, never stop serving, never stop believing in the power of connection. Guardian isn't just a medical breakthrough, he's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful medicine doesn't come in a pill or a procedure. It comes in the form of unwavering dedication to helping others, even when no one is watching, even when the world has forgotten you're there. The students nodded, understanding that they were witnessing not just the success of one remarkable dog, but the birth of a new era in medicine, one where healing would be measured not just in lab results and vital signs, but in the countless small moments of connection that transform hospitals from places of treatment into sanctuaries of true healing. As night fell over Seattle, Guardian's legacy was already spreading, inspiring a new generation of healers, both human and animal, to look beyond traditional boundaries and remember that sometimes the greatest medical breakthroughs come with 4 paws and an unwavering heart. 6 months after Guardian's traffic-stopping rescue, the impact of the Guardian initiative had evolved in ways no one could have predicted. On a crisp autumn morning, Emily stood before the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Guardian, steady at her side, preparing to address delegates from around the world about the global implications of animal-assisted crisis response. The chamber buzzed with anticipation as Emily shared not just statistics and medical breakthroughs, but stories of how the initiative had sparked a worldwide movement. In Mumbai, a former street dog named Raja had prevented a hospital catastrophe by detecting a gas leak hours before human sensors registered any danger. In Rio de Janeiro, a displaced therapy dog called Estrella had guided emergency responders through a collapsed building, leading them to survivors trapped in pockets too small for traditional rescue equipment. Guardian's influence had transcended medical facilities, inspiring innovations across multiple sectors. Police departments had begun incorporating therapy dogs into their crisis negotiation teams after a breakthrough case in Chicago, where a former service dog helped peacefully resolve a 12-hour standoff. Fire departments reported improved success rates in search and rescue operations when partnering with retrained therapy animals. The UN presentation took an unexpected turn when Guardian suddenly left Emily's side, making his way through the surprised assembly to a delegate from a small African nation. The man had been quietly suffering through the early stages of a stroke, and Guardian's intervention led to immediate medical attention that prevented potentially devastating consequences. This unscripted moment transformed the formal presentation into something more profound, a live demonstration of how animals could transcend language barriers, cultural differences, and diplomatic protocols to serve a higher purpose. Protecting human life. Dr. Amara Okafor, a prominent Nigerian neurologist, stepped forward to share her experience implementing the Guardian Protocol in rural clinics across West Africa. In areas where we lack sophisticated medical equipment, she explained, these animals become our early warning system. They can detect malaria, tuberculosis, and other conditions days before conventional symptoms appear. The assembly learned how the initiative had evolved to address unique challenges in different parts of the world. In remote Australian communities, former working dogs were being retrained to detect not just medical emergencies, but environmental hazards that could affect public health. In Arctic regions, traditional sled dogs were showing remarkable abilities. In anticipating weather-related health crises, Emily unveiled the next phase of the initiative, the Global Guardian Network. This ambitious program would create an international database of animal-assisted crisis response teams, allowing resources to be shared across borders during major emergencies. The system would track everything from natural disasters to disease outbreaks, deploying trained animals where they were needed most. But the most powerful moment came when the assembly witnessed a live link-up with hospitals across 6 continents. On the massive screens, they watched as therapy dogs in different countries simultaneously demonstrated their abilities to detect various medical conditions. The uniformity of their responses, despite vast geographical and cultural differences, provided compelling evidence of their innate capabilities. During a break in the proceedings, Guardian demonstrated another unexpected skill. He began moving between delegates from nations in conflict, creating subtle connections that diplomatic protocols hadn't achieved in years. The Israeli and Palestinian representatives found themselves sharing stories about their childhood pets. A North Korean diplomat quietly discussed healthcare challenges with his South Korean counterpart, brought together by Guardian's gentle presence. The afternoon session focused on the scientific breakthroughs that had emerged from studying animals like Guardian. Research teams had identified specific proteins in canine olfactory systems that could detect chemical markers of disease. These discoveries were leading to new diagnostic tools that combined animal instinct with human technology. Dr. Sarah Chen, now heading the International Center for Animal-Assisted Medical Research, presented groundbreaking findings about the neurological basis of animals' diagnostic abilities. We're discovering that what we dismissed as instinct is actually a sophisticated form of pattern recognition, she explained. These animals are processing sensory information in ways that our most advanced AI systems can't match. The presentation took an unexpected turn when Guardian's influence on mental health care came into focus. Hospitals implementing the Guardian protocol reported dramatic reductions in patient anxiety, faster recovery times, and improved staff morale. The simple act of incorporating trained animals into healthcare settings was transforming the entire healing environment. Emily shared the story of a psychiatric unit in Stockholm, where therapy dogs had revolutionized treatment for severe trauma cases. Patients who had been non-responsive to traditional therapy began opening up when paired with animals trained in the Guardian protocol. The dogs seemed to know exactly when to provide comfort and when to encourage independence, creating a dynamic therapeutic environment. The assembly was particularly moved by video footage from a children's hospital in Tokyo, where a former therapy dog named Hachi had learned to assist with physical therapy sessions. The dog's ability to motivate young patients and detect early signs of fatigue had led to breakthrough recoveries in cases that had plateaued under conventional treatment. As the day progressed, the focus shifted to the future. Plans were unveiled for the first International Academy of Animal-Assisted Crisis Response, a facility that would combine cutting-edge medical research with traditional animal training techniques. The academy would serve as both a training center and a sanctuary, providing homes for displaced therapy animals while preparing them for new roles in global healthcare. Guardian's legacy had grown beyond medicine, inspiring changes in architecture and urban planning. Hospitals were being redesigned to incorporate animal-assisted care from the ground up. Cities were creating networks of emergency response corridors where trained animals could move quickly between crisis points. The UN session concluded with a historic resolution recognizing animal-assisted crisis response as a fundamental component of global emergency preparedness. Nations pledged resources to develop their own Guardian programs, creating a worldwide network of animal helpers ready to serve in times of crisis. As evening fell over New York, Emily and Guardian stood at the top of the UN building, looking out over the city lights. Below them, delegates from nations that rarely cooperated were excitedly discussing plans for joint training facilities and shared resources. Guardian had accomplished something beyond medical breakthroughs. He had reminded world leaders of their shared humanity. The story of a stray dog stopping traffic had evolved into a movement that transcended borders, languages, and political differences. Guardian had shown that the capacity to help others wasn't limited by species, nationality, or circumstance. It was a universal calling that required only the courage to act when others needed help. As they prepared to return to Seattle, Emily reflected on how far they'd come. Guardian wasn't just a medical pioneer anymore. He was a symbol of hope, a reminder that the most profound changes often start with the simplest acts of compassion. His legacy would live on not just in medical protocols and research papers, but in the countless lives touched by the movement he had inspired. The lights of New York twinkled below, each one representing a life that might someday be saved by an animal following in Guardian's paw prints. The world had learned that sometimes the most powerful solutions to its challenges come not from the highest towers of power, but from the humble hearts of those who never forget their purpose to serve others. 1 year after Guardian's life-changing morning in Seattle's rain, the world gathered to witness something extraordinary. The Nobel Committee had made an unprecedented decision. For the first time in history, they would recognize the contribution of an animal to medical science. The Guardian Initiative wasn't just receiving the Nobel Prize in medicine. It was revolutionizing the very definition of medical innovation. The Grand Hall in Stockholm gleamed with historical significance as Emily took the stage, Guardian padding gracefully beside her. The audience included not just scientists and physicians, but handlers and dogs from Guardian programs around the globe. Each pair represented a story of transformation, of lives saved and communities changed. Dr. Maria Larson, head of the Nobel Committee, began the ceremony with a powerful statement. Today, we don't just honor a discovery, we honor a revelation. Guardian has shown us that the future of medicine lies not just in technology, but in the profound connection between species willing to serve each other. The ceremony took an unexpected turn when Guardian suddenly tensed, his behavior shifting into alert mode. Years of documented cases had taught everyone in the medical community to trust these signals. Within moments, Guardian led emergency responders to an elderly professor in the audience experiencing the early stages of cardiac arrest. The incident, broadcast live worldwide, became yet another testament to the program's impact. But the real story of the day wasn't about another medical save. It was about how one dog's actions had triggered a cascade of innovations across multiple fields. The Nobel presentation highlighted breakthrough research inspired by studying Guardian's abilities. Scientists had identified unique proteins in canine olfactory systems that could detect disease markers before conventional tests. This discovery had led to the development of new diagnostic tools that combined animal instinct with artificial intelligence. Dr. James Chen, now leading the International Institute for Biomedical Innovation, presented remarkable findings about the neurological basis of animal-assisted healing. Guardian didn't just show us a new way to detect illness, he explained. He revealed an entirely new dimension of healing, one that operates at the intersection of biology, psychology, and something we're only beginning to understand. The ceremony showcased transformative cases from around the world. In rural India, a network of former street dogs trained in the Guardian protocol had revolutionized early disease detection in areas without access to modern medical facilities. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous communities had integrated their traditional knowledge with Guardian program techniques, creating a unique hybrid of ancient wisdom and modern medical science. Emily shared the story of the Guardian Academy's latest breakthrough, the discovery that animals could be trained to detect environmental hazards affecting public health. In Australia, a team of dogs had prevented a major public health crisis by identifying contaminated water sources days before chemical tests could confirm the danger. The Nobel presentation took on additional significance when the committee recognized the program's impact on mental health care. Hospitals implementing the Guardian protocol reported unprecedented success rates in treating PTSD, depression, and anxiety. The simple presence of trained animals was transforming sterile medical environments into spaces of genuine healing. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when Sophie, now 12 and thriving, took the stage. The little girl whose rescue had started it all had become a passionate advocate for animal-assisted medicine. Her speech about how Guardian had not only saved her life, but inspired her future career in veterinary medicine moved many in the audience to tears. The ceremony highlighted how the initiative had expanded beyond individual hospitals to create international response networks. During recent natural disasters, Guardian program teams had been first responders, their animals detecting survivors in conditions too dangerous or complex for traditional rescue methods. Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented groundbreaking research on what they now called the Guardian effect, the measurable impact of animal-assisted care on patient recovery rates. The data showed that hospitals with Guardian protocol programs saw significantly better outcomes across all departments, from emergency medicine to long-term care. The Nobel Committee also recognized the program's influence on medical education. Universities worldwide had begun incorporating animal-assisted care into their curricula, creating a new generation of physicians trained to work in partnership with animal helpers. The Guardian Initiative had become a bridge between traditional medicine and a more holistic approach to healing. During the ceremony's intermission, Guardian demonstrated another aspect of his legacy: the ability to create connections across cultural and linguistic barriers. His presence brought together medical professionals from different countries and traditions, fostering collaborations that transcended traditional boundaries. The afternoon session focused on the future of the initiative. Plans were unveiled for a global network of Guardian centers, facilities that would combine medical care, research, and animal training. These centers would serve as hubs for developing new applications of animal-assisted medicine while providing sanctuary for displaced therapy animals. Emily announced the launch of the Guardian Scholarship, a program providing funding for students pursuing careers in animal-assisted medical care. The scholarship would focus particularly on students from underserved communities, ensuring that the benefits of the initiative would reach those most in need. The ceremony took an emotional turn when Linda Martinez, Guardian's original trainer, shared previously unknown details about his early life. The dog, who had changed modern medicine, had shown extraordinary potential from the beginning, but it was his time on the streets that had honed his abilities to detect people in crisis. As the sun set over Stockholm, casting long shadows through the historic hall, the Nobel Committee presented their final honor, the establishment of the Guardian Medal, an annual award recognizing extraordinary contributions to animal-assisted medicine. The first recipient would be chosen from among the growing network of therapy animals serving in crisis zones around the world. Guardian accepted the Nobel Medal with characteristic grace, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the gravity of the moment. As cameras flashed and the audience applauded, he remained focused on his true purpose, watching over the gathered crowd with the same dedication that had driven him to stop traffic on a rainy Seattle morning. The ceremony concluded with a powerful demonstration of the initiative's global impact. Via satellite link, the audience witnessed simultaneous Guardian protocol interventions in hospitals across 6 continents. The uniformity of the animals' responses, despite vast geographical and cultural differences, provided compelling evidence of their innate abilities to serve humanity. As the formal proceedings ended, Emily found herself surrounded by medical professionals eager to implement Guardian programs in their own facilities. But Guardian was already moving with purpose toward his next mission, comforting a young medical student overwhelmed by the day's emotions. The Nobel Prize wasn't just recognition of past achievements, it was a catalyst for future innovations. The Guardian Initiative had shown that the boundaries between human and animal medicine were more fluid than anyone had imagined. In breaking down these barriers, Guardian had opened new frontiers in healing. As night fell over Stockholm, Emily and Guardian stood on the balcony of the Nobel venue, watching the city lights twinkle below. The world had changed in ways no one could have predicted when a stray dog decided to block traffic one rainy morning. Guardian's legacy would live on, not just in medical protocols and research papers, but in the countless lives touched by the revolution he had inspired. The future of medicine had been transformed, not by a new technology or drug, but by the simple, profound truth that healing knows no species barriers. Guardian had shown that sometimes the most powerful medical breakthroughs come not from laboratories, but from hearts dedicated to serving others, regardless of the form that service takes. 18 months after Guardian's life-changing intervention, in Seattle, the story took an unexpected turn that would once again transform the landscape of medical care and human compassion. The Guardian Initiative had received an urgent call from NASA. They wanted to explore the possibility of incorporating animal-assisted crisis response into their space program. Emily and Guardian found themselves at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where scientists and astronauts gathered to witness something unprecedented. The space agency had discovered that Guardian's abilities might hold the key to protecting astronauts during long-duration space missions. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, NASA's chief medical officer, explained their interest. Space travel presents unique medical challenges. We need early warning systems for health issues that can't wait for traditional diagnostic equipment. Guardian's abilities suggest a new frontier in space medicine. The proposal was ambitious, creating a specialized training program for animals that could accompany astronauts on extended missions. Guardian would be the prototype, helping researchers understand how animals could detect health issues in the unique environment of space. The first phase of testing took place in NASA's zero-gravity simulation facility. Guardian, secured in a special harness, demonstrated remarkable adaptability to weightless conditions. More importantly, his medical detection abilities remained sharp even in this unusual environment. During one simulation, Guardian alerted to an astronaut's elevated blood pressure before the monitoring equipment registered any change. In another test, he detected early signs of spatial disorientation in a pilot, potentially preventing a serious incident. The implications went beyond physical health. Dr. James Morrison, now consulting with NASA's psychological support team, observed Guardian's impact on the mental well-being of astronauts during isolation training. Space missions require extended periods of confinement, he explained. Guardian's presence not only provides early warning for medical issues, but also offers crucial emotional support. NASA's interest sparked a new wave of research into the biological mechanisms behind Guardian's abilities. Scientists discovered that the same instincts that allowed him to detect medical emergencies on Earth could be even more valuable in space, where subtle health changes could quickly become life-threatening. The program expanded to include preparation for Mars missions. Guardian's training now incorporated scenarios designed to simulate the challenges of long-term space travel. His ability to detect changes in air quality proved particularly valuable for life support system monitoring. During one crucial test, Guardian identified a minor malfunction in an oxygen recycling system before any mechanical sensors detected the problem. This discovery led to the development of new safety protocols that integrated animal alerts with traditional monitoring systems. The space program's involvement attracted attention from other unexpected quarters. The deep-sea exploration community reached out, recognizing parallels between the isolation of space and underwater missions. Guardian's protocols were adapted for use in submarine environments, where early detection of health issues was equally critical. Emily found herself addressing a unique gathering of astronauts, deep-sea explorers, and polar researchers, all eager to understand how animal-assisted crisis response could protect humans in extreme environments. Guardian's influence was extending far beyond traditional medical settings. The breakthrough moment came during a full-scale space station simulation. Guardian detected early signs of a potentially dangerous infection in one of the crew members. something that could have become critical during an actual space mission. His intervention led to the development of new quarantine protocols for space travel, but Guardian's impact on the space program went beyond medical detection. Astronauts reported improved sleep patterns and reduced stress levels when working with him during training exercises. The data suggested that animal companions could be crucial for maintaining crew health during years-long missions to Mars. NASA's research revealed another surprising benefit. Guardian's presence helped bridge the gap between highly technical procedures and human emotional needs. In the sterile mechanical environment of space preparation, he provided a vital link to the natural world. The initiative expanded to include training facilities at all major space centers worldwide. Russian cosmonauts, Chinese taikonauts, and European astronauts began incorporating animal-assisted protocols into their training programs. Guardian had initiated a global transformation in how humans prepare for space exploration. During a key presentation to International Space Agency representatives, Guardian demonstrated an extraordinary ability to detect subtle changes in radiation exposure, a crucial skill for protecting astronauts from solar flares and cosmic radiation. This discovery led to new safety measures for spacewalks and external vehicle maintenance. The program's success inspired innovations in space habitat design. Future space stations and Mars habitats would include dedicated spaces for animal companions, recognizing their vital role in both medical safety and psychological well-being. Emily worked with engineers to develop specialized equipment for animal caregivers in space. The designs had to account for everything from zero-gravity exercise needs to medical detection protocols in an environment where traditional dog behaviors would be altered by lack of gravity. The space program's embrace of the Guardian initiative led to unexpected advances in Earth-based medicine. Technologies developed for monitoring animal helpers in space found applications in traditional hospitals, creating new ways to interpret and respond to animal alerts. Guardian's work with NASA culminated in a groundbreaking experiment, a 3-month simulation of a Mars mission, complete with communication delays and emergency scenarios. His performance exceeded all expectations, demonstrating that properly trained animals could be essential crew members on humanity's journey to the stars. The success of the space program adaptation spawned new research into other extreme environment applications. Search and rescue teams working in disaster zones began incorporating Guardian protocol techniques, finding that animals could detect survivors in conditions that challenged even the most advanced technology. As the space program phase of the initiative developed, Guardian continued to surprise his handlers with new abilities. During a high-altitude training exercise, he detected an unexpected pressure change in a test chamber before any instruments registered the problem, potentially preventing a serious accident. The initiative's expansion into space exploration opened new possibilities for funding and research. Private space companies began investing in animal-assisted crisis response programs, recognizing their potential value for commercial space travel. Emily found herself dividing her time between the hospital in Seattle and the Space Center in Houston, watching as Guardian's influence reshaped both traditional medicine and space exploration. His legacy now extended beyond Earth's atmosphere, promising to protect human life on other worlds. The program's success led to the establishment of the Interplanetary Guardian Initiative, a collaborative effort between space agencies and medical institutions to prepare for the challenges of human expansion into space. Guardian's protocols would help protect astronauts on their journey to Mars and beyond. As the sun set over the Johnson Space Center, Emily watched Guardian interact with a group of astronaut candidates. His calm presence grounded them in the midst of their intensive training, reminding them that even in the most technical of human endeavors, the simple connection between species could make the difference between success and failure. The stray dog, who had stopped traffic to save a life, had now helped humanity prepare for its greatest journey. Guardian's legacy would travel to the stars, protecting and supporting those brave enough to venture into the unknown, proving that compassion and service know no bounds, not even the bounds of Earth itself. 2 years after Guardian's fateful morning in Seattle, a crisis emerged that would test the full potential of the Guardian initiative. A devastating earthquake had struck a remote region of Nepal, leaving countless villages isolated in the treacherous Himalayan terrain. Traditional rescue operations struggled with the challenging landscape and unstable ground. That's when the International Guardian Response Network received its most ambitious call to action. Emily and Guardian found themselves aboard a military transport plane, heading to the disaster zone alongside teams of specially trained animals and handlers from around the world. The Guardian initiative had evolved from a medical program into a comprehensive crisis response system, and now it faced its greatest challenge. As they approached the impact zone, the scale of devastation became clear. Entire villages had been cut off by landslides, with conventional rescue equipment unable to reach many areas. But Guardian and his fellow trained animals possessed abilities that transcended technological limitations. The operation center established in Kathmandu buzzed with activity as Guardian protocol teams coordinated with local authorities. Dr. Rajesh Patel, a Nepalese physician who had implemented the Guardian program in several mountain clinics, explained the unique challenges they faced. These villages aren't just isolated physically, they're isolated from modern medical care. We need to find survivors and assess their conditions without relying on traditional equipment. Guardian's first mission targeted a village that hadn't been heard from since the earthquake. With specialized gear designed for mountain rescue, he led a team through narrow paths that even helicopters couldn't access. His behavior soon indicated the presence of survivors trapped beneath a collapsed monastery. The rescue operation revealed a new dimension of Guardian's abilities. He not only located survivors, but seemed to prioritize them based on medical urgency. His signals, now standardized through years of documentation, guided medics to those needing immediate attention. Working alongside Guardian was Luna, a former therapy dog from Argentina who had been retrained in mountain rescue. Together, they demonstrated how different animal specialties could complement each other. Guardian's medical detection skills combining perfectly with Luna's expertise in navigating treacherous terrain. The breakthrough came in a village that seemed completely abandoned. Guardian's persistent behavior led rescuers to discover an underground prayer room where 30 villagers had taken shelter. More remarkably, he identified several individuals suffering from altitude-related complications that required immediate treatment. Emily worked with local doctors to document new patterns in Guardian's responses. The high-altitude environment had enhanced certain aspects of his detection abilities, leading to the development of protocols specifically designed for mountain rescue operations. The initiative's impact extended beyond immediate rescue efforts. In villages where medical facilities had been destroyed, Guardian program animals helped establish temporary clinics, their detection abilities compensating for the lack of diagnostic equipment. They identified cases of infection, internal injuries, and altitude sickness that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. The operation attracted worldwide attention as Guardian and his fellow responders demonstrated the extraordinary potential of animal-assisted crisis response. Media coverage showed trained dogs navigating paths that even experienced climbers found challenging, all while maintaining their medical detection capabilities. A particular moment captured global imagination. Guardian located a young mother and newborn in a partially collapsed home, guiding medical teams through unstable ruins. His careful movements prevented further collapse while ensuring the safe evacuation of both patients. The incident became a symbol of the program's unique combination of technical skill and compassionate care. The success in Nepal led to the establishment of permanent Guardian Protocol mountain rescue stations across the Himalayas. Local communities began incorporating animal-assisted crisis response into their traditional emergency preparedness systems, creating a hybrid approach that respected both modern and ancient wisdom. Guardian's work inspired innovations in rescue equipment design. Engineers developed specialized gear that allowed animals to carry medical supplies through difficult terrain while maintaining their ability to detect health issues. The equipment included miniaturized versions of essential medical tools designed to be transported by four-legged responders. The operation's scope expanded as other regions facing similar challenges reached out for assistance. The Guardian Initiative began training local animals in mountain communities worldwide, creating a network of crisis responders adapted to high-altitude environments. The Nepal mission also revealed unexpected benefits of animal-assisted crisis response in disaster psychology. Guardian and his fellow responders provided crucial emotional support to survivors dealing with trauma, their presence helping to reduce anxiety and facilitate communication between victims and rescue teams. Emily worked with international aid organizations to develop new protocols for disaster response that integrated animal capabilities with traditional rescue methods. The Combined Response Protocol, as it became known, would transform how the world approached complex disaster situations. The initiative's success in Nepal attracted attention from climate scientists studying the impact of global warming on mountain communities. Guardian's abilities to detect environmental hazards proved valuable in identifying emerging threats to high-altitude populations. During the mission's final phase, Guardian demonstrated perhaps his most remarkable skill yet, the ability to detect impending aftershocks before seismic equipment registered any warning signs. This discovery led to new research into animals' capacity to sense geological events. The experience in Nepal transformed the Guardian Initiative from a medical program into a comprehensive disaster response system. Teams trained in the Guardian Protocol began preparing for deployment to other challenging environments, from Arctic regions to dense urban areas affected by natural disasters. As the operation wound down, Emily and Guardian participated in a ceremony where local leaders honored the animal responders who had helped save their communities. The event combined traditional Buddhist blessings with modern recognition of the animal's contributions, symbolizing the bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary crisis response. Guardian's legacy in Nepal extended beyond the immediate rescue operation. The experience led to the creation of the Mountain Guardian Program, a specialized branch of the initiative focused on training animals for high-altitude rescue and medical detection. The Nepal mission proved that animal-assisted crisis response could succeed where technology alone failed. In the harsh reality of a disaster zone, the combination of animal instinct and human expertise had created something extraordinary, a response system that could reach the unreachable and help the most vulnerable. As Emily and Guardian prepared to leave Nepal, they witnessed the lasting impact of their work. Villages were beginning to rebuild, incorporating Guardian protocol stations into their new infrastructure. Local dogs were entering training programs, ensuring that the region would maintain its own animal-assisted response capabilities. The success in Nepal became a model for disaster response worldwide, demonstrating that sometimes the most effective solutions combine the simplest elements, the bond between humans and animals, with the most advanced emergency response and techniques. Looking out over the mountains from their departure point, Emily reflected on how far they'd come from that rainy morning in Seattle. Guardian had shown that the capacity to help others knew no boundaries, not of species, not of terrain, and not of tradition. His legacy would live on in the mountains of Nepal, protecting communities and saving lives for generations to come. 3 years after Guardian's transformative morning in Seattle, the initiative faced its most personal challenge yet: rising. Healthcare costs had threatened to shut down several rural hospitals across America, leaving countless communities without access to medical care. The situation struck close to home when Evergreen Valley Hospital, just outside Seattle, announced its imminent closure. Emily received the news during a Guardian protocol training session. The rural hospital had been one of the first to adopt. Their program and its success stories had helped inspire the worldwide movement. Now it faced extinction due to budget cuts and changing demographics, but Guardian, as always, had other plans. During a final visit to the hospital, his behavior caught Emily's attention. Instead of focusing on patients, he kept returning to the hospital's administrative wing, showing the same urgency he'd displayed that rainy morning in Seattle. Following his lead, Emily discovered something remarkable. The hospital's financial records revealed patterns that traditional auditors had missed. By analyzing patient care data from the Guardian Protocol program, they found that animal-assisted intervention had significantly reduced treatment times, decreased medication needs, and improved recovery rates. All factors that translated into substantial cost savings. Dr. Michael Chang, a healthcare economist from Stanford, was called in to study the phenomenon. His analysis revealed something extraordinary. Hospitals implementing the Guardian Protocol showed an average 30% reduction in operating costs while improving patient outcomes. The animals weren't just saving lives, they were saving hospitals. The discovery sparked a revolution in healthcare economics. Insurance companies began offering reduced premiums to hospitals with Guardian Protocol programs, recognizing their impact on both cost reduction and treatment effectiveness. The financial model that had threatened to close rural hospitals was being rewritten. Evergreen Valley Hospital became a test case for this new approach. The Guardian Initiative worked with hospital administrators to integrate animal-assisted care into every department, from emergency medicine to long-term rehabilitation. The results were unprecedented. Within 6 months, the hospital's financial situation had stabilized. Patient satisfaction scores soared, leading to increased community support and donations. The Evergreen Model, as it became known, demonstrated how animal-assisted care could make rural healthcare both financially viable and medically superior. Guardian's influence extended beyond direct patient care. The hospital's staff turnover rate dropped dramatically, with nurses and doctors reporting higher job satisfaction and reduced stress levels. The presence of trained animals created an environment that benefited both patients and caregivers. The success attracted attention from healthcare systems worldwide. Emily found herself addressing an international conference on rural healthcare sustainability, sharing how the Guardian protocol had transformed medical economics. The presentation included live demonstrations of how animal-assisted care reduced the need for expensive diagnostic tests while improving accuracy. But the real breakthrough came in preventive care. Guardian and his fellow program animals demonstrated an extraordinary ability to detect health issues during routine checkups, often weeks before traditional screening methods would have caught them. Early intervention led to simpler, less expensive treatments and better outcomes. The initiative expanded to create specialized programs for rural communities. Mobile Guardian units began traveling to remote areas, bringing both medical care and animal-assisted diagnostic capabilities to populations that had limited access to healthcare facilities. Guardian's work inspired innovations in telemedicine. Hospitals developed systems that allowed trained animals to assist remote diagnoses, with their handlers relaying observations to specialists hundreds of miles away. This hybrid approach made specialized medical care accessible to isolated communities. The economic impact rippled through the healthcare system. Insurance companies commissioned studies on the cost-effectiveness of animal-assisted care, leading to new coverage policies that made these services more widely available. The Guardian Protocol was no longer seen as an alternative approach. It had become a crucial component of sustainable healthcare. Emily worked with medical schools to integrate animal-assisted care into their curricula, ensuring future generations of doctors would understand how to work effectively with these remarkable partners. The program emphasized both the medical and economic benefits of incorporating animals into healthcare delivery. Rural communities began developing their own Guardian Protocol programs, training local animals to serve their specific needs. This localization of services further reduced costs while strengthening connections between healthcare providers and the communities they served. The initiative's success in rural healthcare led to partnerships with agricultural communities. Farmers working with Guardian Protocol teams reported earlier detection of health issues in both humans and livestock, creating a more comprehensive approach to rural well-being. Guardian's influence on rural healthcare extended to mental health services. In areas where stigma often prevented people from seeking help, the presence of therapy animals created more approachable and accessible mental health resources. The program's economic benefits attracted attention from global development organizations. The World Health Organization began studying how the Guardian Protocol could make healthcare more sustainable in developing nations, where resource limitations often forced difficult choices about medical care allocation. Emily worked with economists to develop new metrics for evaluating healthcare efficiency that included the impact of animal-assisted care. These measurements showed how the Guardian Protocol could help hospitals achieve better outcomes while reducing costs, creating a model for sustainable rural healthcare. The transformation of Evergreen Valley Hospital became a case study in medical economics textbooks. Students learned how integrating animal-assisted care had not only saved the facility, but had created a new paradigm for rural healthcare delivery. Guardian's legacy in rural healthcare went beyond economics. He had shown that sometimes the most cost-effective solutions came not from cutting services, but from rediscovering the fundamental connection between humans and animals in the healing process. As other rural hospitals adopted the Evergreen model, a pattern emerged. Communities became more engaged with their local healthcare facilities, volunteering increased and donations rose. The presence of Guardian Protocol animals had transformed these hospitals from institutions into true community healing centers. Looking out over the preserved lands around Evergreen Valley Hospital, Emily watched Guardian interact with a group of medical students learning about rural healthcare delivery. The dog who had once stopped traffic to save a life had now helped save an entire system of care, ensuring that rural communities would continue to have access to quality medical services. The success of the Rural Healthcare Initiative proved that compassion and economics weren't mutually exclusive. Guardian had shown that by returning to the basics of human-animal connection, healthcare could become both more effective and more sustainable. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across Evergreen Valley, Emily reflected on their journey. The stray dog who had transformed modern medicine had now helped ensure that this transformation would reach every corner of the country, leaving no community behind in the revolution of care he had inspired. Guardian's work in rural healthcare had created a model that would influence medical care for generations to come, proving that sometimes the most powerful solutions come from the simplest connections, and that true healing knows no boundaries, geographic, economic, or species. 4 years after Guardian's fateful morning in Seattle, the initiative discovered an entirely new frontier, the digital realm. A revolutionary project emerged when Sophie, now 14 and excelling in computer science, made a remarkable observation during one of Guardian's hospital rounds. "He's not just detecting health issues," she noted, watching Guardian interact with patients. "He's processing patterns. What if we could teach computers to understand health the way he does?" Her insight sparked a collaboration between the Guardian Initiative and Silicon Valley's leading AI researchers. Dr. Marcus Chen, a pioneering figure in artificial intelligence at Stanford, arrived at Harborview Medical Center with a team of developers and a bold proposal. They would create an AI system that could learn from Guardian's diagnostic patterns, combining animal intuition with machine learning capabilities. The project, dubbed Digital Guardian, began by documenting every aspect of Guardian's work. High-resolution cameras captured his micro-movements, thermal sensors tracked his temperature responses, and advanced biosensors monitored his physiological reactions to different medical conditions. Guardian's interaction with the technology revealed something extraordinary. Rather than being replaced by the AI, he seemed to understand that he was teaching it. He would deliberately slow down his diagnostic process, allowing the systems to record his methodology in detail. Emily worked with AI specialists to decode Guardian's subtle signals. They discovered that his responses weren't just binary alerts. They contained complex information about the nature and severity of medical conditions. The AI began learning to interpret these nuanced communications. The breakthrough came during a routine emergency room shift. The digital Guardian system, running alongside its canine mentor, identified a pattern in patient vital signs that neither human doctors nor traditional monitoring equipment had noticed. Guardian confirmed the AI's observation, leading to the early detection of a rare but dangerous condition. This synergy between animal instinct and artificial intelligence created something unprecedented, a hybrid diagnostic system that combined the best of both worlds. The AI could process vast amounts of medical data, while Guardian provided the intuitive understanding that machines couldn't replicate. Dr. Sarah Chang, heading the neurological research team, made a stunning discovery. The AI's analysis of Guardian's brain activity during diagnostic work revealed patterns that couldn't be explained by current understanding of canine cognition. He wasn't just sensing medical conditions, he was processing them in ways that revolutionized our understanding of animal intelligence. The project expanded to include other Guardian protocol animals around the world. Each brought unique insights to the AI system, creating a global network of animal-assisted diagnostic intelligence. The technology learned from thousands of successful interventions, while the animals continued to provide the irreplaceable element of compassionate care. Silicon Valley's biggest tech companies took notice. Investment poured into the project, but Guardian's influence ensured that the focus remained on improving patient care rather than just creating profitable technology. The initiative maintained strict ethical guidelines about how the AI would be used. Sophie, whose initial observation had sparked the project, worked alongside the development team, bringing her unique perspective as both a technology enthusiast and someone whose life had been saved by Guardian. Her input helped ensure that the digital system maintained the human and animal touch that made the Guardian protocol so effective. The Digital Guardian project transformed hospital operations. AI systems running on Guardian's learned patterns could monitor entire wards continuously, while trained animals provided direct intervention when needed. This combination of technology and animal instinct created a new standard in patient care. Emergency rooms equipped with a hybrid system showed remarkable improvements in patient outcomes. The AI could detect subtle warning signs in vital signs and lab results, while Guardian protocol animals provided immediate response to developing crises. The technology spread to rural hospitals, where limited access to specialists had always been a challenge. Digital Guardian systems, guided by local therapy animals, helped remote facilities provide higher levels of care, while maintaining the personal connection that Guardian had shown was so crucial to healing. Research facilities studying the project made another surprising discovery. The AI's analysis of Guardian's work revealed patterns in disease progression that had never been documented before. His ability to detect illnesses in their earliest stages was teaching medical science new ways to understand how diseases develop. Guardian's work with the AI system attracted attention from environmental scientists. His ability to detect subtle changes in patients paralleled emerging research about animals' capacity to sense environmental changes. The Digital Guardian project expanded to include monitoring ecological health indicators. The initiative developed specialized training programs that taught therapy animals to work effectively with the AI system. The animals seemed to understand that the technology was an extension of their own abilities, creating a seamless partnership between biological and digital intelligence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the project's implementation in pediatric care, observed how the combination of animal comfort and AI precision particularly benefited children. Young patients responded to the gentle presence of therapy animals while receiving the benefits of advanced diagnostic technology. The digital guardian system proved especially valuable in mental health care. The AI could analyze subtle behavioral patterns that might indicate developing psychological issues, while therapy animals provided the emotional support crucial for mental health treatment. Guardian's influence on the project ensured that technology never overshadowed the fundamental importance of compassion in healing. The AI was designed to enhance rather than replace the human-animal bond that had proven so powerful in medical care. As the project reached its first anniversary, Emily presented the results at a global technology conference. The data was compelling. Hospitals using the hybrid system showed better patient outcomes, reduced costs, and improved staff satisfaction, compared to those using either traditional methods or technology alone. The success of Digital Guardian led to new research into animal intelligence and its applications in other fields. Scientists began studying how other species might contribute to technological advancement while maintaining the ethical framework that Guardian had inspired. Looking toward the future, Emily worked with technology developers to ensure that Guardian's legacy would continue in the digital age. The project wasn't just about creating smarter machines, it was about understanding and preserving the unique abilities that animals brought to human health care. As evening fell over the hospital's AI research center, Guardian sat beside a bank of computers running his digital counterpart. The screens displayed complex patterns of medical data, but his focus remained where it had always been, on the patients and caregivers who needed his help. The stray dog who had stopped traffic had now bridged the gap between animal instinct and artificial intelligence, creating a future where technology and compassion work together in service of healing. His legacy would live on not just in the animals who followed his example, but in the digital systems that had learned from his extraordinary abilities. Guardian's journey from the streets to the frontiers of medical technology proved that the most powerful innovations come not from replacing natural wisdom with artificial intelligence, but from finding ways to combine them in service of humanity. His digital legacy would continue saving lives long into the future, while never losing touch with the simple truth that had started it all: the profound healing power of connection between species. 5 years after Guardian's life-changing decision to block traffic on a rainy Seattle morning, Emily Richardson stood before a gathering unlike any other. The World Health Organization had convened a special session to recognize what they called the Guardian Effect, a global transformation in healthcare that had started with one dog's unwavering dedication to helping others. The Grand Assembly, hall in Geneva, was filled with medical professionals, world leaders, and representatives from Guardian protocol programs across the globe. But most remarkably, alongside the human delegates sat rows of therapy animals, each wearing the distinctive Guardian Initiative vest that had become a symbol of hope worldwide. Guardian, His muzzle now flecked with grey, but his eyes, still bright with purpose, sat calmly beside Emily as she prepared to share the full scope of what their movement had achieved. The presentation began not with statistics or medical studies, but with stories, thousands of them, collected from every corner of the earth. There was the story of Maria, a young girl in Brazil who had been non-verbal for years until a guardian protocol dog helped her find her voice. The tale of a remote Alaskan village where a former sled dog trained in the protocol had prevented a devastating influenza outbreak. The account of how therapy animals in war-torn regions had helped heal not just physical wounds, but the invisible scars of conflict. Dr. James Morrison, now heading the WHO's Division of Innovative Healthcare Solutions, presented groundbreaking research showing how the Guardian Initiative had fundamentally changed the human approach to healing. "We didn't just create a new medical protocol," he explained. "We rediscovered an ancient truth about the connection between species." The assembly watched in amazement as live feeds showed Guardian protocol teams in action across different continents. In a Tokyo hospital, a therapy dog detected early signs of stroke in a patient, allowing for preventive treatment. In Cairo, another alerted to a crucial change in a child's condition before any monitors registered the change. In Sydney, a third guided emergency responders through a complex rescue operation. Sophie, now 15 and preparing to enter medical school, gave a passionate speech about how Guardian had not only saved her life, but had inspired a new generation to think differently about healthcare. Her words carried special weight as she announced the launch of the Young Guardians program, an initiative to involve youth in animal-assisted medical care. The WHO session marked the official recognition of animal-assisted crisis response as a fundamental component of global health care. But Guardian's legacy had grown far beyond medical applications. His influence had sparked a worldwide movement, recognizing the extraordinary potential that existed when humans and animals worked together as true partners. Emily shared how the initiative had evolved into something far more comprehensive than anyone had imagined. Guardian protocol teams now served in disaster zones, conflict areas, and remote regions where traditional medical care was limited. They had become bridges between communities, transcending cultural and linguistic barriers through their universal language of compassion. The assembly learned of new developments in understanding animal intelligence. Guardian's work had led to groundbreaking discoveries about how animals process information and respond to human needs. These insights were transforming not just medicine, but our entire understanding of interspecies communication. The success of the Guardian Initiative had inspired changes across multiple sectors. Schools were incorporating therapy animals into educational programs. Businesses were exploring how animal-assisted crisis response could improve workplace safety. Even space agencies were studying how animals could support long-duration missions. But perhaps the most powerful impact was on how society viewed the relationship between humans and animals. Guardian had shown that this wasn't just about humans using animals as tools. It was about genuine partnership, about recognizing and respecting the unique abilities that each species brought to the relationship. The WHO session concluded with a historic announcement. The Guardian Protocol would be integrated into the organization's global healthcare guidelines, ensuring that animal-assisted crisis response would become a standard component of medical care worldwide. As evening approached, Emily and Guardian took a quiet moment on the building's terrace overlooking Lake Geneva. The sun setting over the water painted the sky in colors that seemed to celebrate all they had achieved, but Guardian's attention was already elsewhere. He had detected something that needed his attention. Following his lead, Emily discovered a maintenance worker experiencing early signs of cardiac distress. Even after all these years, after all the accolades and achievements, Guardian's primary focus remained unchanged, helping those in need, one life at a time. The incident served as a powerful reminder of what had made the initiative so successful. While the program had grown to encompass advanced technology, international protocols, and groundbreaking research, its heart remained as simple as that. Morning when a stray dog decided to stop traffic to save a life. Guardian's legacy would live on not just in medical protocols or research papers, but in the countless lives touched by the movement he had inspired. He had shown the world that sometimes the most profound changes come not from complex technology or elaborate systems, but from the simple decision to act when others need help. As they prepared to return to Seattle, Emily reflected on their extraordinary journey. The stray dog, who had transformed modern medicine, had done so not through any special training or advanced technology, but through his unwavering dedication to serving others. He had reminded the world that true healing comes not just from medical procedures, but from the profound connection between all living beings. The sun's last rays caught Guardian's grey-flecked face as he stood alert, ready as always to help whoever needed him next. In that moment, Emily understood that while their story had touched millions, its true power lay in its simplicity, in the reminder that every one of us, regardless of species, has the capacity to make a difference in the lives of others. Guardian's journey from the streets to the halls of world leadership had shown that sometimes the most powerful changes start with the simplest acts of compassion. His legacy would continue inspiring future generations to look beyond traditional boundaries. And remember that true healing knows no species barrier. It comes from the heart's unlimited capacity to serve others. If this story of unwavering dedication and the power of compassion has touched your heart, remember that every one of us has the potential to be a guardian in our own way. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to stop, to care, and to act when others need our help. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.